So hi guys and welcome back. So this is our third video for the topic biological classification. ठीक है? So what have we learned up till now in biological classification? Give me a quick recap. So we started off with the early systems of classification and finally came to the 5 kingdom classification, right? So who gave the 5 kingdom classification? Come on, you should know this. This was given by R.H. Whittaker, okay? R.H. Whittaker gave the 5 kingdom classification. So what were the 5 kingdoms? We know that the 5 kingdoms were, first is Monera, which contains all bacteria, then come Protista, then comes kingdom Fungi, then the 2 higher ones, that is kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. So in the last class we have learnt about kingdom Monera and kingdom Protista, right? So now we will move on to kingdom Fungi. So before Fungi was a new kingdom in itself. Fungi animals, fungi organisms were classified with plants. Any reasons why? This is because of the presence of a cell wall. But they lack an important characteristics that all plants have. That is, they are not autotrophs. Fungi are heterotrophs. And that is why they cannot be classified with plants. And therefore, an entirely new kingdom called kingdom Fungi was established. Okay? So in this chapter, we will be learning all about kingdom Fungi. So let's start today's video learning about the general characteristics and features of kingdom Fungi. Okay? So kingdom Fungi are heterotrophic organisms. Okay? Kingdom Fungi has all the heterotrophic organisms. What do we think about fungus? Like, what is the first thought that comes to your mind when you think about fungus? यही आता है ना कि dead या फिर खराब खाने पे उगने वाला. So basically it can survive on dead and decaying matter and therefore it is saprophytic. Okay. But fungi is also known to cause various fungal infections and diseases. Therefore it can live on living organisms as well. Therefore it can be parasitic also. Okay. Next, a very special point about fungi is the formation of symbiotic relationships. Now fungi cannot manufacture their own food, but they can definitely absorb water and nutrition from their substrate. So therefore, they make an alliance with organisms such as algae in lichens and higher plants in mycorrhiza. Okay, these two are very famous symbiotic examples. In lichens, basically lichens is the symbiotic relationship of algae and fungi, in which fungi give them nutrition and water and algae in return make food and give it to fungi. Okay. Similarly, in mycorrhiza, pine etc. Higher organisms like higher trees form symbiotic alliance with fungi. Okay. So fungi plus trees like pines etc. Fungi grow all over their root system and increase the surface area. Therefore, help in absorption, okay, and in turn the tree provides them with food, okay. So these are symbiotic relationships. So going on to other cellular characteristics, our organisms fungi are mostly multicellular and filamentous, okay. These filament-like structures are called as hyphae, okay. Each individual filament is called as a hyphae. And when there is a a collection of filaments or a woolen ball like formation of filaments, it's called mycelium. Okay? Now this mycelium can be of 2 types. It could be septate, that is there could be septa between each cells, or it could be aseptate, that is without septa, like a continuous hyphae. Okay? So going on to next point. That is, an example of unicellular fungi can be yeast. Yeast is the fungi which helps us in making all of the bakery products. Okay, it's quick to multiply and very easy to use. The next is that the cell wall is made up of chitin. We know that fungi have a cell wall, but unlike plants who have cellulose based cell wall, fungal cell wall is made up of chitin. Okay? Fungal cell wall is made up of chitin. Going on to the next page, let's look at the various reproductive strategies in fungi. So reproduction can be either of vegetative reproduction or it could be sexual reproduction. So in vegetative reproduction, we have fragmentation and budding. Also we have the third mode, that is fission. So fragmentation क्या? इसका मतलब है अगर ये मेरा एक hyphae है, if this is broken down into two parts, each individual component can grow into an adult fungi. So this is fragmentation. Now budding. Budding occurs mostly in unicellular fungi like yeast and also Saccharomyces. ठीक है? In this the parent cell is here which develops a small bud over here. Now the some of the nuclear content is also passed on to this bud, some cytoplasm is passed on to this bud, and finally it separates from the adult, forming a new cell of its own. Okay, this process is called as budding. This adult cell is called as the mother cell and the newly formed cell is called as the daughter cell. ठीक है? The daughter cell is initially small in size but it grows back to the original mother size cell. Okay? Next is fission. अभी fission का क्या मतलब है? Breaking down into two parts. So like bacteria, fungi can also undergo fission. ठीक है? Fungal cell along with the nucleus divides into two parts and each part can become a new cell. This is again seen mostly in unicellular fungi like yeast. ठीक है? Next we go on to modes of asexual reproduction. ठीक है? So we've covered vegetative reproduction, we'll go on to asexual reproduction. This occurs by formation of different kinds of spores. ठीक है? Now this is very important in terms of MCQs also. What are the different asexual spores in fungi? So let's look at them. Okay. The first one, the first category is called as Parangiopores. These Parangiospores are nothing but those spores that develop in something called as a sporangium. So this is your mycelium. It develops an overgrowth called as sporangiophore, which develops a round organ called as sporangium. Now this organ is specialized to form spores inside it. These spores which are formed by mitosis are called as sporangiospores. Okay. Now when each sporangiospore lands and germinates, it will again give rise to new mycelium and therefore a new fungal body. Okay. So these are sporangiospores. Okay. Going on to the types of sporangiospores. Now depending upon whether they are motile or not, they could be of two types. Okay. What are the two types? They could be zoospores and they could be aplanospores. Okay. Now zoospore, like the name suggests, zoo, which is relatable to animal. So animals move here and there, right? So zoospore are flagellated and motile. Okay. On the other hand, aplanospores are non-flagellated and non-motile. Okay. So sporangiospores are formed endogenously. What is the meaning of the word endogenously? Endogenous means it is formed inside a sac. Okay. Endogenously यानी inside a sac. So this sac is called as sporangium. So there is formation of a sporangium inside which there are spores and therefore sporangiospores are endogenous in development. Similarly, there is a different kind of exogenous spore which is known as Canadia. Okay. So what is the speciality of this Canadia? This Canadia, if this is our mycelium, it will again have an outgrowth called conidiophore, and this conidiophore will directly bear conidia. Okay? There is no formation of a fruiting body as such or sporangium. There is directly this conidiophore, which is an extension of the mycelium or hyphae, directly bears conidia. Okay? And these conidia, when they fall on the ground, they germinate to give rise to new mycelium. So conidia is exogenous. Okay? Because it does not have a fruiting body. That is why it is exogenous. Okay? So going on to the next page, that is sexual reproduction. So what have we seen up till now? We've learnt about vegetative reproduction, that is they could either have fission, they could have fragmentation or they could have budding. Okay. Then we saw asexual spores like zoospores, aplanospores, which are both type of sporangiospores, and finally we saw about Canadia. So now we come to sexual reproduction in fungi. So to understand this, you need to understand one basic concept, that here the process of fertilization is not direct. Okay, हम fertilization कैसे करते थे? Fertilization in other organisms that we have seen is the fusion of these two gametes directly to give it to an zygote, right? But here this step is fermented or fragmented. It gives rise to n plus n inside a cell. That is, earlier there is only the fusion of plasma. It's called as plasmogamy. Plasmogamy. And later on there is the fusion of the nuclei inside the cell. So it will give 2n. So this is known as karyogamy. Why? Because when plasma fused, we called it plasmogamy. Now when the nuclei will fuse, we will call it karyogamy. Okay? So basically the process of fertilization is divided into two steps, plasmogamy and karyogamy. Okay? So let's look at this sexual reproduction cycle here. Okay? Okay. So this is our synkaryon, which is the 2n cell. Okay. You may assume that this is the adult cell. Okay. So via meiosis, it will form gametes at our n or haploid. Now when two gametes meet, they will undergo two processes. Like I told you, they will undergo plasmogamy, that is fusion of that plasma, to form a certain stage called as the dikaryon stage. Why is this important? Because this stage is present only in fungi. In dikaryon, the cytoplasm is fused, but nuclei abhi tak fuse nahi hue. So this is called NN stage or dikaryon stage. ठीक है? And it is seen in Asco and Basidiomycetes. Okay, these are the two comparatively higher level fungi, Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. तो इनमें देखा जाएगा dikaryon phase. ठीक है? So after that, these NN will eventually fuse to form 2N, and this fusion of nuclei is known as karyogamy. ठीक है? And finally, this stage that is formed with 2n number of chromosomes is the synkaryon, which will later give rise to the adult body. Okay? So the sexual reproduction may be of many types. कैसे? First is plano-gammatic copulation. Now plano-gammatic copulation is basically the copulation of two types of gametes, motile gametes. ठीक है? Because plano, we saw that aplano gametes are immotile, इसीलिए plano gametes will be motile gametes. ठीक है? So motile gametes are formed by the cells called gammatangia. You need to remember this term gammatangia because gammatangia is basically equivalent to spore mother cell. Okay? In this, the mother cell which forms gametes is called as gammatangia. ठीक है? So any cell of the hyphae will randomly form gammatangia in two fungal bodies, and they will form motile gametes which will fuse together, and this is known as plano-gammatic copulation. Now these gametes may be similar, iso यानी कि same, or gamous यानी gametes, they may be similar or isogamous, or they could be dissimilar यानी कि anisogamous. ठीक है? Or they could be a third variant like in algae, that is oogamous. Now what did I tell you over there in algae? Oogamous का मतलब है one of the gametes is very big, immotile in size with lot of stored food, and this is called as the oogamete, or this is the female gamete. ठीक है? And the male gamete in comparison is very small, usually motile with one or more flagella or cilia. ठीक है? So this mode of reproduction in which the gametes are so different is called as oogamous. ठीक है? With the presence of a oogamete. So going on to further details about sexual reproduction, let's see the second type of sexual reproduction. Now we have seen plano-gammatous copulation. Now we see gammatangial contact. ठीक है? So what does gammatangial contact mean? The gammatangia का contact. अभी gammatangia क्या था? हाइफे के वो सेल्स थे जो गमीट मदर सेल की तरह फंक्शन करेंगे, राइट? सो ये दोनों गमीट गैमेटेंजिया अगर डायरेक्टली कॉन्टैक्ट में आ गए, सो इट इज़ नोन एज गैमेटेंजियल कॉन्टैक्ट. सी, पहले दीज गैमेटेंजिया मेड गमीट्स which came into contact, but what if these two gammatangia came in contact with each other? This is called gammatic or gammatangel contact. ठीक है. So finally let's look at this. We have mycelium which could be belonging to two different fungi or the same fungi. ठीक है. Now mycelium has fungal hyphae and one part of the mycelium will give rise to antheridium. Now what is antheridium? It is the male gammatangia. ठीक है. It is the male gammatangia or antheridium which will give rise to male gametes. So this will have one male nucleus, right, because of meiosis. Meiosis 2n से लेके n बनाएगा and this will have a male nucleus. On the other hand, one part of the fungi will form the oogonium, that is the female gammatangia. That will also undergo meiosis to form the female nucleus, which is again haploid. ठीक है. So now these two hyphae that we have, these two specialized hyphae will come in contact. ठीक है. So like I told you, this is the male hyphae which contains the male nucleus, and this specialized female hyphae, which is the oogonium, which is slightly enlarged, contains the female nucleus of the egg. Okay. After coming into contact, this male nucleus is transferred into the female nuclei, inside the female hyphae. Okay. So basically the structure will look something like this. ठीक है. It will have the female nuclei as well as the male nuclei, and this structure inside the female nuclei will then undergo plasmogamy and karyogamy. ठीक है. Now these two nuclei will fuse after karyogamy and will form the zygote or the oospore. So this structure will become the oospore. ठीक है. This is my oospore with 2n number of chromosomes. This oospore will again undergo meiosis to reduce its chromosome number to half to form n number wali spores, and these spores will germinate to form mycelium. Okay. So quick revision. क्या होता है gammatangel contact में? We have two hyphae, two fungal hyphae which specialize to form the antheridium, the smaller one, and oogonium, the larger specialized female hyphae. Okay. antheridium के अंदर होता है male nucleus और oogonium के अंदर होता है female nucleus. अब ये जब contact में आएंगे, the male nucleus is transferred inside the female nucleus. ठीक है. And therefore inside the female nucleus now the process of plasmogamy and karyogamy take place to form the zygote or oospore with 2n number of chromosomes. This will undergo meiosis to form n chromosomes वाले spores, and these will germinate to form mycelium. ठीक है. Okay. So this was gammatangel contact. ठीक है. अभी तक दो gammatangia contact में आए थे. ठीक है. Finally, the last type of sexual reproduction, that is gammatangel copulation. Now what is the meaning of copulation? Copulation literally means fusion. ठीक है. So basically two gammatangia are going to fuse. Two identical gammatangia directly fuse together in gammatangel copulation. So this is one hyphae, this is the other hyphae, and this is the specialized gammatangia here. ठीक है. Even this one. And after coming into contact, these gammatangia fuse together. ठीक है. And therefore in this part, which is the fused part, we have n from this hyphae and n from this hyphae. So this will undergo plasmogamy and karyogamy to give rise to the 2n zygote or the zygospore. Okay. So take note here that after gammatangel copulation, we have formed the zygospore, and after the gammatangel contact, in which the big oospore was going to become which is going to harbor the zygote was called as oospore. Why? Because it was present inside the female gammatangia. Here both of them fuse, therefore it is called as the zygospore. ठीक है. And this part in gammatangel contact was called as oospore. ठीक है. So this will undergo meiosis to form spores, which will again give rise to mycelium on germination. ठीक है. Easy enough. So let's take a quick recap at all these types of reproduction. ठीक है. So we started off with vegetative reproductions like fragmentation, budding and fission. ठीक है. Then we looked at asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction में भी spores बनते हैं, but दो type के. They can be either endogamous like the Parangiopores, or they could be exogamous like Canadia. ठीक है. The Canadia were exogamous and directly born on the conidiophore. Okay. So next we went on to sexual reproduction modes, in which we have three major modes of sexual reproduction. ठीक है. The first is Plano gammatic copulation, in which we have motile gamete formation which fuse together to give rise to the zygote. ठीक है. So this Plano gammatic copulation, which involves motile gametes, could either be isogamous, anisogamous, or it could be oogamous. ठीक है. So this was Plano gammatic copulation. Next we have the involvement of hyphae. Abhi hyphae can be involved in two types. First is gametangel contact, in which two hyphae, one of them develops to form specialized female hyphae, that is oogonium, and the other forms the antheridium or specialized male hyphae. They come into contact and the male nucleus is transferred inside. ठीक है. Now inside the female gametangium or the oogonium, we have the formation of the zygote by plasmogamy and karyogamy. So this zygote is called as oosphere because it is present inside the oogonium. ठीक है. So this will then give rise to spores by meiosis, which will give rise to mycelium on germination. ठीक है. So the next and the last type of sexual reproduction is gametangel copulation और फ्यूजन. तो इसमें क्या होता है, लिटरली दो हाइफे फ्यूज हो जाते हैं. ठीक है. अब ये हाइफे फ्यूज होके इसके अंदर 2n नंबर ऑफ क्रोमोसोम्स आएंगे एंड दिस विल फॉर्म जाइगोट बाय द प्रोसेस ऑफ प्लाज्मोगैमी एंड कैरियोगैमी. अब ये जाइगोट को बोलेंगे जाइगोस्पोर. अब ये जाइगोस्पोर मियोसिस करेगा और स्पोर्स बनाएगा जो कि फिर से जर्मिनेट करके बनाएंगे माइसिलियम. So this was gametangel copulation, that is fusion of the two gametangel. ठीक है. So going on to classes of fungi. So depending upon a lot of characteristics like their if their hyphae are separate or not, if what is the kind of sexual reproduction seen in them, what are the kind of spores they form, we have 4 classes of fungi. The first and the most simple are Phycomycetes, then we have Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. So we learn in depth about these 4 classes in the next video. Okay, bye.